Well, good evening, and I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting for the town of Saugeen Shores and extend a welcome to everyone in the chambers this evening. The first order of business is a declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility to do so. You can do so now or if and when it arises on the agenda. Nothing. The next item is additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda, and we have nothing under that. This evening we have three delegations, and the first one is Duncan McCollum. He's chair of the Southampton Town Hall Ad Hoc Committee, and they're here to give us a presentation. As everyone knows, there was an information session in the committee room prior to the meeting, so welcome, Duncan. And if you can, perhaps you can, maybe if you have your whole committee here, you might want to introduce them all.
I'll work from right to left. Kendall Sawyer Johnson, Bruce Martin, John Cherry, Tim Anderson, Tony Sheard, I believe is your last name, Tony. Yes. And special recognition to Greg Lancaster, the facility manager for the town, who's just been an invaluable resource to our committee. Also, Deputy Mayor Diane Huber and Councillor Cheryl Grace, and all of our committee members that are here. I understand I have 10 minutes. I will try and inform you in 10 minutes. It's short duration, but I found in my experience that nobody normally falls asleep within 10 minutes. So if I can stick to 10 minutes, I'll be on pretty safe grounds. The purpose, as you indicated, Mike, is just to update council and the public on where we've come from with our Town Hall Ad Hoc Committee. The committee started in 2016, mid-year, and we're very appreciative of the fact that you've given us this amount of time to work through what has proven to be a very interesting project. And we've been meeting roughly every 2 weeks. The committee was given very specific mandate, 3 key mandate areas. To create recommendations for action to provide for, number 1, the long-term structural revitalization and sustainability, that is, the building itself. Maintaining and improving the use of the building, that is, ensuring that it gets maximum use and that therefore generates maximum revenue. And setting out the aesthetic and functional upgrades to the municipal lands surrounding the town hall. Those 3 mandates match very nicely to 3 consultant studies that were done, and I'll come back to those in just a moment. Excuse me. But let me speak just for a moment about the town hall. It's an iconic presence and structure within the town. It was built in 1910-11 and has served as a venue for weddings, served, school has actually been held there, grade 1 in years past. I remember Christmas parties. I remember mayor's levees that we used to go in January. We currently have a nice rostrum of users. I'll speak to those in a moment. But we're mindful of their needs as tenants of the building. So it is a beautiful structure. It's been well attended over the years. Its physical presence and that use lends credence to the building as an iconic structure that represents the town of Southampton and now is an integral part of the town of Saugeen Shores. The one common thing to all of this activity is that it's people coming together in a place that defines our community. And when we think about that, that really is what the town hall is all about. So there are the recommendations that we were required to do. I mentioned the reports. All of this information is in your book. There were 3 studies done. We've had good support for the town hall over the years, originally from the town of Southampton Council and now from the town of Saugeen Shores. 3 reports really have kind of created the need for our committee and have given us some good direction. The Torrey Dingman report, which was done in 2011, part of that report was done by SGL Planning Consultants. They spoke to the use of the building and or the Dent Planning Report. Sorry, spoke to the use of the building, and then the SGL was the Streetscape Report, which was done in 2014. So the mandates are rooted in past consultant work. Obviously, we've studied those in great detail. We've talked to the tenants to understand the tenants' use and needs. Importantly, we have to understand the heritage aspect of the building. It is a protected heritage building, and that needs to be ensured as we go forward. One of our committee members had the audacity in an early meeting to suggest that a potential solution as an offset to doing nothing to the building was to blow it up and build a new one. He's still on the committee, but he no longer has a vote. The usage study, if you go to the next one here, the Southampton Arts Society leased the entire main floor level and most of the lower level usable space. Southampton BIA is housed at the Town Hall. The Chamber of Commerce has dedicated space, although it's not meeting their needs. Bruce County Playhouse leasing the auditorium level, and congratulations to staff and council that approved a 3-year tenant agreement with the Bruce County Playhouse. And on the town police service and fire service use it for training sessions, all without recompense to the town hall. And of course, public rentals. It's not used as much now as it used to be in the old days, but it's still got heavy use. It's used on average somewhere between 80 and 100 times a year. Importantly, though, what we want to do was not simply rely on the Dingman reports and the other consultant reports, but reach out to other municipalities that have had comparable experience in renovating old town halls. We toured other municipal facilities, including the Newmarket Old Town Hall, which is a marvelous example of the restoration of an old town hall and the addition of a significant new addition. Center for Arts and Entertainment in Stouffville, which is a wonderful, it is a sponsored building, has a 10-year sponsorship agreement. One of the interesting things about this building is it uses both the indoor and the outdoor space. Elsie Craig was an abandoned town hall. One of the reasons that so many of these town halls are available is that amalgamation has eliminated the need for as many town halls as did exist at one time. The Acton Town Hall, interesting renovation, and David, I think you have some experience with this facility. The Aylmer Town Hall and Library, a wonderful building. The roof on this building is a representation, not a representation, it's a recreation actually, of the old British flag. They researched back to the original colors that were used when it was originally painted, and totally have renovated that town hall. Beautiful job. Georgetown Library. It's a very modern facility. There's a number of key learning points that came from other municipalities. I won't speak to all of them directly, but restoration of the old town hall is widespread in smaller communities. And what we found is we talked to people, and not only places that we visited, but places that we talked to by outreaching by phone to them. Old town halls can regain new life as community hub and cultural centers. And community hubs can be strengthened by stretching the facility use to include libraries, museums, art galleries. In other words, take the hub and grow the hub. Further down, you'll see that one of the common elements was to make renovated facility a mixture of old glory restoration and new wave architecture and amenities. We don't have to look much further than the library in Port Elgin to see how old and new was married, or the museum here in Southampton as to how old and new was married. In fact, the museum is not dissimilar to some of our thinking that talk about in a few moments. The project needs volunteer leadership groups, support of town council and staff, and engaged public to be successful. And the last point, we found different management approaches. In some cases, the building had fallen into disrepair and was turned over to the public, and they established a heritage committee. And the advantage of that is it enables them to get certain funding that you can't if it's a municipally owned building. Then we saw examples of town-owned and operated facilities. And then we saw the hybrid situation of town-owned and operated with public advisory and fundraising board, so that we got a mix of volunteers and town staff. One of the very specific deliverables that we were asked to look at was what was be required to keep the library in downtown Southampton. And so we entered into a number of discussions with library management, not the library council at the board level, Mike, but the director of library services, Melissa Legacy. And we came to realize that the library has some significant need areas. The roof and the HVAC system, and the HVAC system is shared with the town hall. They need replacement, as does the roof of the town hall. There are minor issues, stained carpeting, but accessibility standards are not being met for the town or for the library, nor, for that matter, are they being met for the town hall, nor for the public washrooms. So there are certain mandatory things that need to be addressed at the library and at the town hall. Importantly, from the operational standpoint of the library, the building is currently undersized for accreditation purposes, which means that it restricts the library board of securing government funding. Just to dimensionalize that, the direction is that you should have a square foot for every 1,000 people in the catchment area. Excuse me. The catchment area for the Southampton Library is about 3,500 people. The current library is about 2,400 square feet. So to meet standards, it would need to be in the area of 3,400 or 3,500 square feet. Similarly, its layout inhibits user service needs and, importantly, the service needs of the future. It is definitely not a library of the future. It's a library of the past, library of the present, primarily providing transactional book services, but not doing so many of the new wave things that other libraries are doing. And importantly, it's at the top of the Bruce County list of libraries in need of upgrades and repairs. Now, we know that it's easy for the county to say these things because the responsibility for the library structure is that of the town of Saugeen Shores. The county is simply responsible for the operational costs. In your book are a number of pictures of the library today and the town hall today. I won't go through them. But talk a little bit about the town hall of the future. Thanks to council, we got 4 projects approved for spending in 2017, doing some masonry repairs and repointing. Access to the tower, we've got to work on that. It's a very dangerous situation, and we need somebody that's going to volunteer to continue to take care of the clock. Stage floor and dressing room upgrades. The important one is the twinning feasibility study. This is a design and engineering study to explore how best we can deal with the problems of the town hall and the problems of the library. Can it be done by putting an addition on the town hall or on the library? Could it be done by putting a new library in place? We're excited by what might come out of that design and engineering study. I was just mentioning to Luke before the meeting that there's an RFP out for that study. We've had 54 firms have taken plans for the RFP to design and engineer how those buildings might come together. Our thinking is potentially not based on any understanding of what the consultants might say, but potentially we could have a 3-story building, a basement in the library, a main floor library, and a second floor. The second floor could be rental space, could be washrooms, could be cloakroom. Move those things out of the town hall, connect the two buildings with the center atrium area. In that center atrium area on the ground level could be the new public washrooms, because the existing public washrooms cannot be made accessible in their current location. The elevator, which is simply a lift and not at all meeting the needs of the building, that could be moved into the atrium area and serve each level of the two buildings. So it's an exciting prospect to consider how the two buildings might come together, and it's consistent with expanding the kind of community cultural hub. Tor Dingman talked about a triad being the art school, the town hall, and the library. You could even extend the hub beyond that to talk about the boathouse. You could then take it beyond that, even up as far as the museum. There should be things that we can do with the museum and the library and the town hall working in concert for programming and things of that sort. So that's kind of what the future could portend for the town hall. The library is a space issue, an accessibility issue, and a structural integrity. The building was built 70 years ago. It may be better to demolish it than to add an addition onto the back of it, which was what Tor Dingman envisaged could take place. But the important thing is to create some additional square footage to create the library of the future rather than the library of the past, and to build relationships between residents, visitors, community groups, businesses, Chamber of Commerce, and the municipality. There's no reason why rental space in the second level of the library couldn't be made available for rent. On that second level could be the washrooms that would serve both buildings, could be an area for receptions, things of that sort. Could even have a new kitchen potentially there. But I don't want to get ahead of what that design and engineering study may tell us. Let me close by emphasizing a couple of things. One is both buildings need to have work done to meet accessibility requirements. Both buildings have structural issues in terms of HVAC and roofs and flooring and things of that sort that need to be addressed. And both buildings have the opportunity for much greater usage than is currently being experienced. I'm reminded of something that Jane Jacobs said. Most of you are probably not old enough to know who Jane Jacobs was, but before Richard Florida came along and became the great urban planning guru, Jane Jacobs spoke about urban planning. She said, old ideas can sometimes use new buildings. New ideas must use old buildings. So what we want to do is get full use out of the town hall, ensure that we create that community and cultural hub. That finishes the presentation. I'm sorry I went over time, but thank you for not putting the 10 minutes up on the screen.
Thanks very much, Duncan. Has anybody got any questions for Duncan? Councillor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Dunk, just want to congratulate you and your committee for all the work that you've done. I agree with the idea and the focus that you're putting on. I believe that this new building should be the hub of Southampton, and the ideas that you have will bring a lot of people there. It'll make it a very useful facility, and I look forward to the report once you get it and going forward with that. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Charbonneau.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just agree with what Councillor Matheson said. Thank you for your work, and to every member of your committee. Really great work. I just wanted to make the comment about your third management approach, which intrigues me. I think that just as I think about it, is something that I'd like to explore further, this concept of a town-owned and operated facility with a public advisory and fundraising board. I mean, I think that really has a lot of, there's a lot of good things that could come out of an arrangement like that. And I'd really like to hear, speaking both, I guess, to you, but also to our staff who are here, I'd like to hear more about how we initiate that, how we get to the point where we could establish a board like that to work with us to raise some of the funds that we'll undoubtedly need to make this possible, but also to make the community connections that help us to get this to the next phase. So, I'm really eager to hear more about that coming forward, and hopefully it doesn't have to wait a long time before we can start having that conversation. Because I think the earlier we can get started with that part of it, maybe the faster we can move along the actual shovels in the ground improvements to the facility. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think the key point there is that we're not sitting as a committee doing nothing until we get the result of the design engineering study. There are a number of things that we continue to work our way through. We need a public engagement plan. We need a fundraising plan. We need, if we think that this is the right way to have staff take some ownership and have an advisory board help with fundraising and so on. We need to figure out how that could work. So those undertakings will continue on while we're...
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on that question, that model we saw in working in Stouffville at the Lebovic Center. That's what they do. And one of the strengths of it is that this public advisory board brings in volunteers who work as ushers and who are involved in fundraising, and they have constant fundraising going on, even though the building was completed in, I think, 2009. So it is a really good, sustainable model for a number of reasons.
I think also it's worth noting that it plays to the strength of our community, the volunteer effort. And I think that this brings the volunteers in, it engages them and enthuses them. And, they'll take some ownership of it.
Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation, Dunk. And thank you to the entire committee for all the fabulous work that you people have done to bring this to this point in the planning process. And there's a comment and a question, the 2011 Tour Dingman report. It's nice to see a report of that nature be dusted off. Sometimes, too often those reports are done and they sit on a shelf and they collect dust and they're not moved forward. So I think it's a real positive thing you're doing, Duncan, your community. Thank you for all the great work. Mike, would you just refresh my memory again for benefit of council too, Dunk, the timing in terms of the next, when we'll hear back from your committee with recommendations? How long is the next process going to take, and when you'll be back to us?
We can provide interim reports at any point in time that is deemed appropriate by Jane and by council. The closing date for the request for proposals is, I believe, April 25th, Greg. There will be a period of time in which staff will make decision and make recommendations to council. I think the end date for the consultant report is August. A mandatory requirement of that will be public meeting, but we anticipate having other forms of public engagement. So I think probably appropriately we would come back, maybe, Mike, in another 3 or 4 months.
Okay, no further questions. And I guess on behalf of council, I want to thank you and the committee, Duncan. I think anybody that's, has lived here all my life, and we've all had some experiences in that town hall, some good. And at one time there was a provincial court there, and some of us had some bad experiences in there also too. And I happened to be one of those when I was a teenager. It was not something that I'd recommend to everybody, but it's been part of our community for a very long time, and I really admire the work you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
So our next delegation is Marg Funston and Chair Kim Lake, and the Assistant Artistic Director for the 30th anniversary of Summer Music. Welcome, ladies.
Good evening, Saugeen Shores Council members. My name is Kim Lake, and I'm happy to be here with my colleagues Mark Funston and Ridley Gilmore to provide you with some information about an organization that I'm very proud to be a part of, Summer Music. July 2017 is a big month, not only for our country, it's 150 years, but we are celebrating 30 years new. And I say new because we are filled with new adventures every year, new programs, new students, new faculty, and I have been involved in some capacity for this amount of time too. First as a student, and then as a faculty member, and now as an assistant to the artistic director. We are really fortunate to work with highly qualified musicians and faculty who believe in the importance of music education. We have students and faculty returning every year because of our dedication to the mission to provide the best quality music education possible.
We are a charity. Summer Music is a charity that offers affordable registration to our students. To do this, we fund our programs through grants, sponsorships, and private donations and fundraisers, and I just pressed a button. Oh dear, now you got to watch that for 2 seconds. Okay. Once again this year our fundraiser is called Something Different, a musical extravaganza, and it will be on May the 13th at Port Elgin United Church. We are the only intergenerational, non-residential music camps, try to say that fast, in the province. Last year we had 192 students, from our 4- and 5-year-olds to seniors. Yeah. Norma came from Calgary, and other seniors are local. Our students come from near and far, including international students on occasion. As you can see, there's quite a list there, even from the U.S. Kalen comes from Ottawa to perfect his oboe playing. We have local music friends who join us in class and in the festival winds. Former students, like Joey, now joins us as a musical friend.
We offer a wide range of programs which progress nicely from the beginners all the way up to the very experienced musicians, as in our jazz program. These are the Totson tunes with some of our volunteers in blue shirts. We are so thankful for our volunteers. They are the heart of summer music. As I am sure you are all aware, volunteers directly impact the success of any program, and we literally couldn't do it without them. Our guitar program is designed for beginners and is for ages 9 and up. They spend a week learning the basics so they can go home and continue with the tools they have been taught. Our choral program is a hidden gem in our summer music. Although perhaps not so hidden anymore, it is one of the first to fill up and have a waiting list. Local talent Angela Burns designs and runs the spectacular program. It is one that is not to miss at our gala on Friday, July 28th. Our instrumental program features instruction for all band instruments, including flute, percussion, trombone, tuba, oboe, saxophone, and more. We pride ourselves on our student-to-teacher ratio. For every instrument, we have 3 qualified instructors. This allows our sectionals for bands to run effectively and ensures that each student receives greater quality instruction during their time with us. Mike Grace leads the jazz program. He is a retired professional bass player and music educator from Michigan. He is known internationally for his unique pedagogy of jazz improv. And we are so lucky that he has decided to retire in Southampton. For some reason, we have amazing people retire here.
Summer music benefits the community in many ways. We offer free lunchtime concerts open to the public. Our Festival Winds concert on Thursday night is free, as are our galas on Friday. To give jazz students a realistic venue setting, the jazz gala is held in a bar at the Walker House. Summer music benefits the community economically, since many families rent cottages and frequent the restaurants and local businesses. This is a lunchtime
presentation. Also, there are many volunteer opportunities for residents of Saugeen Shores.
So I get to talk about a really fun thing that's happening this year. To celebrate 30 years, we've commissioned a very good composer, David Eastman, and the piece is finished. It's called Saugeen Shores Overture. It will be performed twice. You see here in the Coliseum, it will be performed on the Thursday evening and then on Friday, so you'll get to hear it twice, and it's 6 minutes long. Now this is during the gala, and these kids will tell you they are the cute ones. This is Musical Beginnings, and showing off the different program that it provides, different instruments, and they play recorder and they sing. Another picture of the 6 to 8 year olds. And this is our junior band, conducted by local music teacher Matthew Patterson at the gala. And the second level band up, this is the intermediate band, conducted by Josh Crouch. Our senior band at the gala, by Scott Harrison with his baton there and shorts. And then this is our faculty band. The festival winds notice that there are some students in this group. And this is our guitar program featured at the gala on the Friday afternoon. 7% of our operating budget is for the venues that we rent. And you can see the vast list there. We literally use every nook and cranny we can find. Here's a good example. This is an outdoor patio behind the Lutheran Church, which they use for jazz. This is the upper level of the Lutheran Church where they have their Sunday school room, and this is our jazz vocal. And here's the United Church Sanctuary with jazz vocal instruction taking place. This is another example of, this is the use of our school music room. This is the senior band.
So we run from July 24th to the 28th, always the last week of July. And we're really excited to be celebrating 30 years and commissioning a piece for that celebration. And if you guys want to experience something different, please come out for a unique and exciting evening of rock and roll featuring the local Rolling Thunder Choir. Thank you so much for your time, Council.
Thank you. Any questions, comments of the committee? Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to the music camp people for coming out. Lots of people involved, lots of interesting sound coming out of the annex at the Coliseum, too. I live right beside there. I did want to ask a question, perhaps I'm not too sure which direction of staff it should go to. One of the issues over the years with this many people in Southampton, and if you've been anywhere near Jubilee Park when this is going on, you know that there's hordes of kids show up there on their breaks and then off they go back to various venues. One of the big challenges is the intersection at Victoria and High Street. I know we've explored in the past the idea of how to provide some support with crossing guards. I wonder if you know, we've ever come to any solution with that, because certainly, you know, that's a dangerous area and it's extremely well used, because from the list of venues you can see it's all around that neighborhood, and there's a lot of movement, and certainly that would be one way that I think you know, the town could provide some support. I know I saw on the list also, you know, there's a couple of venues that we're involved with. I don't know if we have any kinds of arrangements already in place, but certainly, you know, this is a good economic driver and great way to support culture and kids and all that kind of stuff. You know, whatever support the town is able to give, I certainly think that it would be interesting to consider what we might be able to contribute in their 30th year. But I don't know who the crossing guard thing should go to, but I know that that's particularly a challenge during this week.
I think we can direct that to Amanda, our Director of Public Works, who can probably come up with some work with these people, and I'm sure you'll find a solution. If you've got any questions, that's our Director of Public Works, Amanda Frosch, is here in the middle, so I'd get to know her, and if you have need some help, give her a call. Okay? Any further questions? Thanks very much. So, our next deputation then is Liz Maria Wilson with the Huron Group. It's the Bruce County, and she's here about the Bruce County Women's Show on April the 22nd. Welcome, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can understand my accent. I'm from Mexico, retired here with my Canadian husband, and I decided to start the Huron Group to share with other people from outside the beautiful Saugeen Shores, bringing events to the community. And the first event, I thought it was the Bruce County Women's Show. The reason is because during the recent visit of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to President Donald Trump in January of this year, they highlighted the role women play in the local economies of both countries and announced the creation of the Canada-United States Council for Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders to help empower women-owned businesses and further contribute to economic growth and competitiveness in both Canada and the U.S. According to the Women's Economic Empowerment Guidance of Global Affairs Canada, women comprise more than 40% of the global workforce, make up 1/3 of formal business owners, and are responsible for or influence as much as 80% of consumer spending. In Canada, federal and provincial tax and child care benefits implemented in 1995 have seen an increase in the impact of women in the economy and workforce. The guidance for the empowerment of women stresses the importance of supporting women to secure decent work, successfully establish and grow their businesses, and increase their agricultural productivity and earnings by building their ability to identify and act on economic opportunities, define influence, and make economic decisions, and challenge social and cultural norms. Recognizing this, my company decided to organize the first Bruce County Women's Show, aiming to further the empowerment of entrepreneurial women in the area by showcasing business by women for women, including new immigrant female entrepreneurs such as myself, Julie Quinzon, and Geida Al-Ibrahim, who will be preparing authentic Middle Eastern food to be sold at the show, and who form part of the 17.5% of new immigrants who are self-employed according to Statistics Canada. The Bruce County Women's Show will take place on April 22nd from 11 to 4:30 at the Bruce County Museum. An admission fee of $25 will be charged. A donation will be given to the Grace Bruce Women's House. Participants include publishers, authors, chiropractors, web creators, gift designers, jewelry makers, independent sales representatives, and community organizations. The show will also include 3 speakers who will give motivational and inspiring talks. Dr. Patricia Campbell, a seasonal resident in Southampton, author, part-time university instructor, and founder of Love to Learn, which offers fun and inspiring workshops on skills for business, academic, and personal success. Jen Fowler, an investment consultant with Investors Group. Dr. Andrea O'Reilly, professor at the School of Women's Studies at York University and founder director of the Motherhood Initiative and Demeter Press. Local female singers, songwriters, and performers will also be involved. Margaret Wiseman, a singer, songwriter, and local school math teacher. One Voice, a newly formed female voice trio by Brenda Manderson, Maria Bertrand, and Helen Armchuk. And Anna and Sarah van der Heide and Laura Walker will also perform. Kristen's Pharmacy, a new female-owned business in Southampton, is also collaborating by acting as a ticket vendor. I hope everybody could come, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Just before you leave, is any questions, comments from committee? If not, well, thanks, and we wish you best of success with your show.
Thank you.
So that is the end of our delegations. The next item on the agenda then is a general government staff report, and it has to do with the declaration of surplus lands, lane on Plan 368, and acquisition of a public trail. And our clerk, Linda White, will present it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2016, Council authorized in principle the closing of a municipal lane located on the westerly limit of 171 Saugeen Beach Road in exchange for acquiring a publicly used trail located on private property located closer to the shore of Lake Huron, as shown on the attached survey. As a result of the public notice of the pending lane closure, a letter of concern was received from a neighboring property owner, and I'll attempt to highlight how the concerns have been addressed. So a natural heritage environmental impact study has been completed by AWS Environmental Consulting that concludes development within the defined area will have no anticipated negative impacts to the natural heritage features. The second concern regarding the boathouse and the shed that are located on the shore road allowance, those two buildings will be removed as a condition of the offer to purchase and sale agreement. The town does benefit from the increased tax assessment generated from development within the municipality. This application allows the town to acquire the privately owned land upon which a public walking path is located. The town reviews each application upon its merits and in relation to each established policy and practices. After consideration of the public comments, staff recommends that the lane be stopped up, closed, and transferred to the Harveys, who are the adjacent landowners. The transfer of land, there is the attached agreement of purchase and sale for your consideration. The responsibilities of each of the town and the purchaser are outlined in the report. So staff does recommend that the town enter into the attachment agreement purchase and sale. There's additional background provided within the report. The financial impact is that all costs associated with the aforementioned processes are at the expense of the applicant.
Thank you, Linda. Then the recommendation is that Council authorizes the bylaw to stop up and close the lane located adjacent to Lot 5 on Plan 368, being located on the westerly limit of 171 Saugeen Beach Road. The Council authorized a bylaw to enter into an agreement of purchase of sale between James and Adria Harvey and the town of Saugeen Shores. Comments, questions? Councillor Mike Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting this recommendation. I have the opportunity to walk that trail frequently, and I think any time we can assume a parcel of land that provides a key trail linkage along our waterfront in perpetuity, I think is a really, really good thing. We're cleaning up an existing encroachment along our waterfront with a house and a shed, as our clerk has mentioned, and an increased assessment over the next 50, 100, 200 years. So I think it's a win-win. I think the parcel of land that we're looking at turning over to the owners so they can redevelop a couple of new parcels is land that's treed in. It's not been used, nor you've been used that I know of for a long, long time, if ever. And so I think the trail that's skirting around going through the owner's property, that now will become our land, ownership under the town of Saugeen Shores, is a really positive thing. And I don't see the downside to it. I think the new assessment that we will receive from a couple of new housing development houses on those lots is a really good thing for the community. So, so I support this recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Deputy.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions for confirmation. The environmental report that was done, it mentions about subject to mitigation thing. When we look at the map, is it the hatched line around the build site? That's the mitigation measure that they're talking about? No construction outside that hatched line. Is that what that's referring to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. There's a number of hatch lines on here, but there's one with an arrow pointing to it saying 15-meter natural heritage buffer zone setback. That is the line that.
Okay, so that's the mitigation thing that they're talking about.
Correct.
My second question then becomes, and it's just to understand how this fits in. Normally we don't encourage, or I don't believe we enable, development on private lanes. So, and the frontage measurements on the street are, I think, undersized for what we would normally have. So is the fact that there would be the potential for those frontages out onto the road, but there would be one access in, somehow this fits into all of our other requirements? Because we have said no development on private lanes. So have we enabled that by the way this looks like it could be drawn up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This addresses the lane and the acquisition of the public land. There's still planning processes that need to take place. The one application will be for a rezoning of the property to allow for a smaller lot frontage. So we're not speaking to that matter now. That will be a public process through the Planning Act. And I'm assuming that the landowner would then also ask, in addition to the zoning amendment, a severance application as well.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a procedural question for Linda, I guess. Were the neighbors consulted in terms of given notices of this application?
Public notice was given through the newspaper, not through direct mailing.
Any further questions? All in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is communications petitions for the Committee of the Whole information. There's 5 items there. If anybody has any questions on them, take them now. If not, then the next item is reported department heads. And again, we have 5 items. The first one, any questions on any one of them? We'll go down through them. We'll take them now. Councillor Minaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one, the station building lease, my understanding is the last sentence says that staff will work with Mr. Hess and other stakeholders to ensure that the path forward achieving council's goals is understood and achieved in 2018. I'm not 100% clear. I know what my role is in council's goals, to understand them and achieve them in 2018. So I would like to fully understand at a future meeting somehow before as we move forward with this lease. The lease will end sometime in 2017 and there'll be some new goals and expectations for 2018 going forward. So I'd like to know when we're going to have that opportunity to understand what that is before we get to the end. How are these negotiations continuing? I guess that's my question, and I'll take any kind of answer at the moment, just so that if I get a phone call, if I'm asked to comment, I have a little better understanding than I do right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So our intent, Councillor, is to work with other stakeholders, such as the Waterfront Ad Hoc Advisory Committee, and come back to Council to make sure that staff have clear direction from Council on what your specific goals are and vision, and incorporating those with the Waterfront Master Plan. Before we go much further down the road, our earlier intent, what you'll remember from the reports last fall, I believe, actually it was in January, was a development of an RFP, and we did commit to council that we would come back to council to make sure that the RFP met all of your requirements and the things that you wanted to see. So we'll continue to do that.
Any further questions on any of them? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I have a question and a comment about the report on the Fairy Lake progress. To the Director of Public Works, I did have the opportunity last week to make a circumnavigation of Fairy Lake, and I will say that they've certainly removed a lot of the trees. They've also left a lot of debris behind, which I presume is still in the works to be cleaned up, and I'd like some confirmation of that, perhaps. And one other thing that was brought to my attention while walking around the lake and talking with some of the residents in the area is the fact that the outlet creek on the north end of the lake, there's a lot of debris has ended up in the lake, whether it's through natural or maybe some of washout from the emerald ash borer ash trees. But what they pointed out to me, and it's quite evident, is the rainbow trout are stacked in there like transport trucks on the 401, and they're trying to make their way through, but their progress is significantly impeded by this debris in the river. And if there was any way that a mini hoe or a backhoe could get in there and remove a couple of the larger pieces of debris, I'm sure these rainbow trout would much appreciate it. Not that I'm expecting that they're going to be successful spawners in Fairy Lake, but it seems to be their chosen destination. So if we could maybe put some attention to those two items, I would very much appreciate it. Thanks.
Either one, sure.
Yeah. Certainly the cleanup is not completed yet as far as the debris goes. We're cognizant of what can be left and what can't be left as we start to prepare to plant trees. Part of our annual spring cleanup also includes cleaning up that dam area. And there has been quite a bit of activity over the last couple of years with rainbow trout in that area, which is nice to see. So we'll do our best to clean that up and give them a fighting chance.
Vice Deputy Mayor Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. First of all, the Recreation Committee has not yet had a chance to discuss the motion concerning the use of the trail. I took it upon myself to ask to see a copy of the grant application, and one of the items that I'll just read to you, it reads, this is from the grant application we submitted. Fairy Lake is open to the public all year. Not only is it used by individuals having lunch, watching the wildlife, listening to bands, or walking the trail and artists, it is used by snowshoers and cross-country skiers during the winter months. There's no mention there of anything to do with bicycles. I think that there was a meeting held in January at the museum. To a person, everybody I've asked who was there, and I think a couple of us sitting around the table were there, perhaps not for the entire meeting, but there was an expectation presented at that meeting that there would be another public meeting which would follow the trees coming down so that the plan for the park could be then realistic given what was left after we removed trees. This report suggests that continuing public consultation will be by social media. It was, though, promised back in January that there would be another meeting. I think that meeting should happen. I also think we should revisit why we actually were doing this in the first place. This is a nature area, and it's never been anything other than that. I went back and I found a Fairy Lake report from 2002, which talks about the evolution of the lake. As years passed, the small lake attracted pedestrians who used the land around the lake as a walking path. And then there's another report from 2008 that had to do with some work that went on there, which led to the pavilion and the fountain going in there. And it was always about it becoming more for wildlife and people having a connection with nature. I think we should really very seriously think about what this report says, and I think there should be consideration given to not putting out an RFP. And my understanding, having read the grant applications, is that we don't have to have this done by July the 1st. We've got a little bit of time still here into the fall. And we should really be thinking about what we would like to see put in there. I went around the lake myself yesterday with a 2x4 that was 3 meters in length. I dropped it down on the ground and took pictures around the park, and then I went to other parks in Southampton and dropped it down to see how 3 meters fit in. I think we would be very, very, very surprised at what that would mean for the park. It's my understanding from documents that it's an 850-meter trail around the lake. If you do the math, 3 meters, 850, you come up with a square footage that it makes you start to think what's going to be left in there in terms of actual wildlife habitat and natural areas. I think that we should be very seriously imagining what we're about to do to a space that has been a gem, and it's been around in Southampton for a long time, and I think the people of Southampton should be given a chance to see what it would really mean if we follow through on this idea that we're about to go out to tender for something that shows the trail development guidelines, which say 3 meters. I would also respectfully ask the Director of Community Services and Recreation how we go about making decisions that would deviate from that development guideline. Case in point, we recently did some construction at, or a trail installation at both Perkins Park Sandpiper, and I sent a picture to 2 of my colleagues today, and the question becomes, did we build a trail or a road there? It's actually wider than 3 meters across. But the other one that we recently did was at George Marion Park, and the specs that went out for the George Marion Park Trail were for a 1.4 meter path. And that park was wide open. You know, how did we arrive at a different size for that? I will say, though, that it wasn't built to 1.4 meters. It's about a foot wider than that. So it's in the neighborhood of 5 feet across instead of 10. But that park obviously got a little bit different treatment. I'm just curious to know how we can go about having a discussion whereby we determine that Fairy Lake is worthy of that kind of consideration, because obviously we don't build every trail to be 3 meters across. We just did it in George Marion. And so I think it would be good for us to wait for the Recreation Committee to take a look at this. Our next meeting, the chair has requested that we meet at Fairy Lake. I certainly will provide some photographs to my council colleagues just showing, you know, this board. I did encounter a number of people while I went around the lake who wondered what I was doing. And, you know, we stood there and we thought, you know, how could you possibly fit this in here and not be doing damage? We're supposed to be following federal environmental regulations too, which require that we not disturb habitat for migratory birds or for aquatic life. If you imagine a 3 meter wide trail through there, we're going to be cutting into the hill, we're going to be building out over the water. That's got to be doing some kind of damage that I don't know how we mitigate against that. So I think that it would be well advised for us to take a step back and really think about what belongs in that park, and to enable the public meeting that was promised back in January to take place, so that the people of Southampton can have something to say about what the park will look like in the future. And we do have time. The grant application is valid until practically the end of the year. So, you know, I don't think there's any rush to get anything done by July the 1st. It would be good to get something started. I think the next step should be the continuation of the public meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to speak to that, Jane?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly the trail guidelines that you have are such as that, as trail guidelines, and staff are cognizant when we establish new trails or enhance trails to the environment that they're already in, such as Fairy Lake. So although the trail guidelines indicate a 3 meter, we all know that 3 meter is not going to be applicable in Fairy Lake. We have to be cognizant of the fact through the AODA as well, and that's where those guidelines really derive from, to ensure that our trails are accessible to the best that they can be. Right now we know that Fairy Lake is not, for a number of reasons. And we'll do our best to ensure that all users can use Fairy Lake. But we agree with you, and staff have the sensibilities to go around Fairy Lake and realize that 3 meters is not going to be applicable in that area. What I said before, you merely have the guidelines for trail development when we develop new trails or enhance new trails.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Matt.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, Mr. Mayor, and I'll try and be brief. Ferry Lake, I agree wholeheartedly with our Vice Deputy Mayor. I think 3-meter trail, the development around Ferry Lake is certainly not the way to go. And I'm pleased, Jane, to hear you say, as the Director of Community Services, that's a guideline, and that's what it is. Our trail guidelines are that. They're guidelines. And I would be rather disappointed if we saw much more than a meter. I'm not sure much more over a meter in certain spots where we widen. Certainly 3 meters, in my mind, is out of the question. I think we're making a huge mistake by removing cycles from Ferry Lake. And I'll say it again when it comes back to council in your staff report. Cyclists have been using Ferry Lake, I understand from speaking to people in the community. I've only been here close to 20 years. So before that, not sure. But cyclists have been using Ferry Lake for decades, I understand. And removing cyclists from a park, in my view, is a step backwards. One of the things Councillor Matheson's working on, and I'd be certainly the first one to second the motion, is having Saugeen Shores becoming a bike-friendly community. And I certainly hope that removing cyclists from a trail in Saugeen Shores does not happen. I just think it's a step backwards. So I look forward to seeing the report come back, Jane, and I certainly am supportive of Vice Deputy Mayor's comment about the 3 meters. Just is out of the question. But showing common courtesy towards one another, a sign saying please dismount when approaching pedestrian, share the trail, education. There's ways to promote cycling and pedestrian use on the same trail, in my mind. So I just wanted to throw that comment in, Mr. Mayor, and Jane, I look forward to seeing your report.
Okay, I think the whole report, I don't think anywhere in the report it said anything about cycling. We will get a chance to deal with that when that other motion comes back. So, but if there's no other questions on these reports, I think we will take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Dave Mayette and Councillor Matheson, all in favor? We'll take a 10-minute adjournment.